Everybody talks about star schemas, normalization, and best practices. But when you are working in the real world, data modeling isn't about following those rules. It's about making the trade-offs that really help the business. Today, I'm going to walk you through how I actually model data for real business problems. If you've tried to analyze business data and you found yourself drowning in messy tables, duplicate records, and inconsistent file formats, then you already know that modeling is extremely important. Now, it really is what separates slow-performing, scalable, efficient databases from chaotic messes. It is a good idea to really take your time and build a great data model that makes querying fast, storage efficient, and business reporting seamless. A bad one, it's like trying to build a house on quicksand. Now, we get into section 2. We're going to talk about what real-world data modeling actually looks like. Here's a real-world business case. Let's say that you're working with a retail business and they need to know things like insights into their sales, their customers, and their inventory. What do you actually want to know? That's going to be things like, what is your best-selling product? How many repeat customers do you have? Which stores are performing the best? During what times of day and what days of the week? Here is where modeling really makes a difference in how you're making those decisions. Do we use a star schema? Do we use a Snowflake schema? How do we structure our tables and dimensions? Do we need to figure out how to do just one big table? Those are concepts that you're going to need to know and understand what is the best fit for each situation. Do we go fully normalized or do we denormalize for performance? Again, that fully normalized, we're talking about closer to that one big table. This is where a lot of tutorials really fall flat. They give you textbook definitions and real perfect world situations that just don't happen out there in the real world. But they don't take the time to show you why you choose one approach over another when you're out there in your career. As we move into section 3, we're going to talk more about common mistakes and trade-offs and try to stick with this scenario. Here are some of the biggest mistakes that I've seen over my 25 years in data engineering. In real-world data modeling, trust me, it is super important to pay attention to some of these things. Now, I've even made some of these mistakes myself early on, so don't feel bad if you've already run into these and stumbled over some of this. We all have been there. We've all done this, especially going right into a real-world situation. Number 1, over-normalization. Sometimes people go way too deep into breaking tables apart into really just theoretical putty. But guess what? That can really end up slowing down your queries and really make some complicated work for your analysts. Number 2, there's no consideration for higher historical data. How many times have you started to build out the concept of your data model and fell short on things like slowly changing dimensions and making sure that you really classify and qualify which type of dimension that you should use for each of those dimension tables. Slowly changing dimensions over time and keeping track of that historical information and those historical changes are super important, and you'll find that out really quickly in data engineering. Now, number 3, not designing for query performance. So much, again, we really break things down into these small little chunks that could really overly complicate and add additional joins that are really unnecessary in your querying. And that creates some inefficiencies. So a perfectly structured model is useless if it takes 10-20 minutes for a simple query or a simple report to refresh. So indexing, partitioning, again, proper joins and proper modeling is important as you're going through these things. Now, as we move into our next step, we're going to talk more about data modeling and really start to get into the nitty-gritty of it. All right, you want to learn more about data modeling? Well, I highly recommend checking out a couple of these Udemy courses that really cover these topics in depth. These courses do a great job of walking through the foundational principles, practical design patterns, and real-world applications that are going to help you to build scalable and efficient data models as you move through your career. I'll drop the links in the description below, and please go out and check them out. It not only will it help you with your learning journey, but it helps out the channel when you use these links. Now, another thing to think about as you're moving through your learning journey for your data modeling is performance. Here's going to be some quick tips to make sure that your data model is as optimized as possible. 1, use proper indexing. So many freshers really neglect the time and the attention for the indexing piece. Making sure that you have proper indexes and only the proper indexes, because you can over-index in your tables and in your database, are super important for efficiency. Partitioning. Partitioning is a concept that, again, especially freshers forget about. And it is so important as you move into really big data situations where you're working with tens of millions of records. So partitioning these large tables really do go a long way in improving query performance. Now, next step, pre-aggregate some of the commonly used calculations that really hamper some of that query load. So when you're doing your transformations, there's that concept of bronze, silver, and gold level data. You know, the bronze data is often your raw data. The silver data is cleansed and it is curated a little bit. And the gold data is really where your aggregations sit. Now, when you're doing this is where I'm suggesting to pre-aggregate some of that data in that gold layer, right? That's where it goes. So if you want more information on understanding when it's time to pre-aggregate and where that data should live, let me know down in the comments. I'm happy to build out a full video really that we could center in on that. Now, next piece, consider a hybrid approach. Especially when you're working with OLAP and OLTP databases, you know, hybrid approach, really you need to balance that, because so often not only are we pulling data for reporting, we're pushing it back out into those OLTP databases and into those OLTP systems so that we can enhance and better use that data for our sales and marketing teams. Now it's your turn. What is the biggest challenge that you face during your data modeling time, and are you struggling with normalization, performance, or maybe handling some of the business challenges? Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear about what your challenges are so that I could develop better and more content for you and cover it in a future video. If this video was super helpful to you, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification so that you could be alerted the next time that I send out some data engineering tips. Now, I'll see you next time.